You walk into a casino, and the first thing you lose isn't money, it's time. There are no windows, no clocks, no natural light filtering through the ceiling to remind you that evening has turned into morning. The carpet beneath your feet is a deliberate riot of pattern, swirling, chaotic, almost nauseating if you stare too long, designed to keep your eyes fixed forward on the machines, on the tables, on anything but the floor. Every single element in this building has been engineered with one purpose: to make you forget that a world exists beyond these walls. And this isn't some vague corporate instinct. This is science. Lists decades of research in behavioral psychology, environmental design, and neuroscience have been weaponized into an architecture of attention capture. Casinos spend millions consulting with psychologists, lighting designers, acoustic engineers, and scent specialists, all to construct an environment that feels timeless, comfortable, and subtly intoxicating. The average person who walks into a casino stays 40% longer than they originally intended. Not because they're winning, not because they're having the time of their lives, but because the building itself has been constructed to dissolve every natural cue that would normally tell them to leave. This is not hospitality. This is a trap dressed in velvet and neon. And today, we're going to walk through every layer of it, from the air you breathe, to the sounds you hear, to the mathematics hiding behind every spin. By the end, you'll understand exactly how a building can steal your judgment without you ever realizing it happened. Casino design wasn't always this calculated. For most of the 20th century, the dominant philosophy was what industry insiders called the maze layout. And a model pioneered by a man named Bill Friedman, who spent years studying gambling behavior and concluded that the best way to keep people playing was to make it nearly impossible to find the exit. Friedman's casinos were claustrophobic by design: low ceilings, narrow pathways that twisted and turned like a labyrinth, slot machines positioned at every junction so that no matter which direction you wandered, you'd always end up face to face with another opportunity to gamble. There were no clear sightlines, no open spaces. The goal was disorientation. If you couldn't find your way out, you'd eventually sit down and play. But in the early 2000s, a designer named Roger Thomas challenged this entire philosophy. Thomas worked with Steve Wynn to create the Bellagio, and his approach was radically different. Instead of trapping people through confusion, Thomas argued that you should seduce them through comfort, high ceilings, natural light, or convincing imitations of it, wide, elegant pathways, beautiful art on the walls. The idea was to make people feel so relaxed, so at home, that leaving would feel like an interruption of pleasure rather than an escape from a maze. And the data proved Thomas right. Casinos designed with his playground philosophy saw revenue increases of as much as 12%. It turns out that people gamble more when they feel good, not when they feel trapped. Modern casinos have since adopted hybrid models, blending elements of both philosophies: open, luxurious spaces that still funnel you past banks of machines on your way to the restaurant, the elevator, or the bathroom. One of the most well-known tricks in casino design is the absence of clocks. But what most people don't realize is that this is only the surface of a much deeper strategy to destroy your sense of time. Casinos control lighting to maintain a state of perpetual twilight, bright enough to see, dim enough to feel like evening, and consistent enough that your circadian rhythm receives no useful signal. There's no sunrise coming through the windows to tell your body it's 6 in the morning. There's no gradual dimming to signal that night has arrived. The lighting stays the same at midnight as it does at noon, and your brain, which relies heavily on light cues to regulate alertness and fatigue, simply gives up trying to track the passage of hours. Temperature is controlled with equal precision. The air is kept at a cool, steady range that prevents the drowsiness of warmth without the discomfort of cold. You never feel the urge to step outside for fresh air because the air inside has been filtered, conditioned, and in some cases subtly scented to create an atmosphere of perpetual alertness. Some casinos pump oxygen-enriched air into the gaming floors, a claim the industry officially denies, but former employees have repeatedly confirmed. Even the music plays a role. The ambient soundtrack in most casinos is carefully curated to maintain a tempo that keeps you engaged without making you anxious. Studies have shown that music played at around 72 beats per minute, roughly the pace of a resting heartbeat, keeps people calm, focused, and most importantly, seated. Faster tempos make people bet more aggressively and leave sooner. Slower tempos make them drowsy. The sweet spot is engineered to keep you in a state of pleasant suspension. In the early 1990s, a researcher named Alan Hirsch conducted one of the most cited studies in casino psychology. He pumped a pleasant but unidentifiable odor into a section of slot machines at the Las Vegas Hilton and tracked the revenue. The scented area saw a 45% increase in coin-in, the total amount wagered, compared to the unscented control section. The casino industry took notice immediately. Today, most major casinos work with fragrance companies to develop proprietary scents, unique blends that are pumped through the ventilation systems and associated exclusively with that property. The Bellagio has its scent. The Venetian has its scent. MGM Grand has its scent. These aren't just air fresheners. They're brand signatures designed to trigger positive emotional associations. When you smell that particular fragrance, your brain connects it to the excitement, the possibility, the thrill of winning. It's classical conditioning, and it works. But scent is only one layer of the sensory assault. The sounds in a casino are just as carefully manufactured. When a slot machine pays out, it doesn't just display a number on a screen, it erupts. Lights flashing, coins clanging, digital chimes cascading in a celebratory symphony that every person within 50 feet can hear. This creates what psychologists call social proof. The perception that winning is common, that it's happening all around you, that your turn is coming. What you don't hear are the losses. The thousands of quiet, unremarkable spins that take your money without a sound. The wins are theatrical, the losses are invisible, and your brain, which is wired to notice dramatic events and ignore mundane ones, builds a completely distorted picture of reality. One of the most powerful psychological tools in the casino's arsenal has nothing to do with architecture or scent. It's the simple act of converting your money into something that doesn't feel like money. When you walk up to a table and exchange a $100 bill for a stack of colored chips, something fundamental shifts in your brain. Those chips are still worth $100. You know this intellectually, but they don't feel like $100. They feel like tokens in a game. And research consistently shows that people spend tokens far more freely than they spend cash. This is the same psychological principle that makes credit cards dangerous. When you remove the physical sensation of handing over paper currency, the emotional pain of spending decreases dramatically. Slot machines have taken this concept even further. Modern slots don't accept coins. They accept bills or cards, and they display your balance as a number of credits rather than a dollar amount. You're not losing $20 per spin. You're losing 40 credits. The monetary value has been abstracted away, replaced by a unit that carries no emotional weight. And when you hit a jackpot, the machine celebrates your 5,000 credits with the same enthusiasm it would celebrate $5,000. Because in that moment, the distinction has been engineered to feel irrelevant. The advent of cashless gambling has accelerated this trend exponentially. Many casinos now allow you to load funds directly from your bank account onto a digital wallet linked to your player's card. You never touch cash at all. The entire transaction exists in the realm of numbers on a screen, which is the environment where human beings are worst at tracking their spending. Every casino game is built on a mathematical certainty. Over time, the house always wins. This is the house edge, and it is the single most important concept in understanding why casinos exist. But what makes the house edge so effective isn't its size, it's its invisibility. Take roulette. An American roulette wheel has 38 pockets. numbers 1 through 36, plus a 0 and a double zero. If you bet on a single number and win, the casino pays you 35 to 1. But the true odds of hitting that number are 37 to 1. That gap, between the true odds and the payout odds, is the house edge. On an American roulette wheel, it works out to about 5.26%. This means that for every $100 wagered across all bets on the table, the casino expects to keep about $5.26. That might sound small, and on any single bet, it is. You might win. You might win big. In the short term, anything can happen, and that's exactly what keeps people playing. But the house edge isn't designed to work on a single bet. It's designed to work across millions of bets, across thousands of players, across every hour of every day. It's a tax on participation, and it compounds relentlessly. Slot machines are where this mathematics becomes truly predatory. Modern slots use random number generators that can be programmed to return any percentage the casino chooses, typically between 85 and 95%. A machine set to 90% return will, over its lifetime, keep 10 cents of every dollar fed into it. But the variance, the wild swings between wins and losses in the short term, is what makes the machine feel unpredictable, exciting, and beatable. In 2009, a team of researchers at the University of Cambridge published a study that changed our understanding of gambling addiction. They put people inside brain scanners and had them play slot machines. And what they found was disturbing. When players experienced a near miss, the reels stopping just one position away from a jackpot, their brains responded almost identically to how they responded to an actual win. The dopamine system, which governs motivation and reward-seeking behavior, lit up with nearly the same intensity for a near miss as it did for a genuine payout. In other words, your brain treats almost winning as a form of winning. It interprets the near miss not as a loss, but as evidence that you're getting closer, that the jackpot is within reach, that the next spin could be the one. Slot machine designers know this, and they exploit it ruthlessly. Modern machines are programmed to display near misses at a rate far higher than what random chance would produce. The symbols are weighted so that the jackpot icon appears just above or just below the pay line with disproportionate frequency. This isn't random. This is engineered frustration designed to stimulate the exact neurochemical response that keeps you pulling the lever. The effect is so powerful that researchers have compared it to the mechanisms underlying substance addiction. The near miss creates a craving, a neurological itch that can only be scratched by trying again. And because the machine delivers occasional small wins alongside these near misses, your brain never fully extinguishes the expectation of reward. You exist in a state of perpetual anticipation, which is exactly where the casino wants you. If you're finding this breakdown eye-opening, take a second to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Every week, we pull back the curtain on the systems, strategies, and hidden mechanics that shape how the world really works. One tap, and you won't miss what comes next. Casino loyalty programs are marketed as rewards for your patronage. In practice, they are surveillance systems designed to maximize the amount of money you lose. Here's how they work. When you sign up for a player's card, which casinos encourage with free sign-up bonuses, complimentary drinks, and other incentives, you give the casino permission to track every bet you make, every machine you play, every table you sit at, and how long you stay. This data feeds into sophisticated analytics platforms that calculate your theoretical loss, the amount the casino expects to win from you based on your playing patterns, the house edge of your preferred games, and the speed at which you play. The comps you receive, free rooms, free meals, show tickets, cashback, are calculated as a percentage of your theoretical loss. The casino isn't giving you something for nothing. It's returning a fraction of what it expects to take from you, specifically calibrated to make you feel valued enough to keep coming back. A player who loses $10,000 might receive $1,000 in comps and feel like a VIP. but the casino has still netted $9,000, and the comp is essentially a reinvestment in future losses. The tracking goes deeper than most people realize. Casinos use predictive modeling to identify players who are at risk of reducing their visits or switching to a competitor. These players receive targeted offers, a free weekend stay, bonus loyalty points, an invitation to an exclusive event, precisely timed to re-engage them before they drift away. It's the same retention logic that tech companies use to keep you on their platforms, applied to an environment where the product you're consuming is the experience of losing money. There's a reason casinos offer free drinks to anyone sitting at a machine or a table. Alcohol impairs judgment, lowers inhibition, and makes people more willing to take risks, all of which directly benefit the house. This isn't speculation. Multiple studies have confirmed that intoxicated gamblers bet larger amounts, chase losses more aggressively, and stay at the table significantly longer than sober players. A landmark study published in the journal Addiction found that even moderate alcohol consumption increased the average bet size by over 25% and made players substantially less likely to walk away after a losing streak. The delivery system is intentional. Cocktail waitresses circulate on a schedule designed to maintain a steady level of consumption without pushing players into obvious drunkenness that might create liability issues. The drinks are free, but the service is slow enough that you keep playing while you wait. And the drinks themselves tend to be sweet, easy to consume, and often stronger than what you'd get at a bar, because the casino wants the alcohol in your system, not sitting on a napkin. But it's not just alcohol. Casinos increasingly use food as a retention tool. Buffets, restaurants, and snack bars are positioned deep within the gaming floor, requiring you to walk past hundreds of machines to reach them. The prices are often subsidized, not because the casino is generous, but because every minute you spend inside the building increases the probability that you'll sit down and play. The meal is the bait. The gaming floor is the trap. There's a moment that every gambler knows. You've been playing for 3 hours. You're down $400. And a voice in your head says, you've come this far. You can't leave now. You need to win it back. This is the sunk cost fallacy, and it might be the single most profitable cognitive bias in the casino's portfolio. Rational decision-making would tell you that the money you've already lost is gone. It's irrelevant to what you should do next. But human brains don't work that way. We feel losses roughly twice as intensely as equivalent gains. A phenomenon psychologists call loss aversion. Losing $100 feels about as bad as winning $200 feels good. And that asymmetry drives people to take increasingly irrational risks to avoid accepting a loss. Casinos amplify this bias through every design choice we've discussed. The absence of clocks means you don't realize you've been chasing losses for hours. The conversion to chips means the losses don't feel as real. The near misses convince you that a reversal is just around the corner. The free drinks lower the cognitive threshold for deciding to play just one more round. Each element independently nudges you toward continued play, but together they create a system that is extraordinarily difficult to resist. And this is the essential insight. The casino doesn't need you to be stupid. It doesn't need you to be ignorant. It doesn't even need you to be addicted. It just needs you to be human, to be subject to the same cognitive biases and emotional vulnerabilities that affect every person on the planet. The genius of the casino is that it has built an entire environment optimized to exploit these universal weaknesses quietly and systematically, one bet at a time. Everything we've talked about so far applies to physical casinos, buildings you can walk out of, environments you can leave behind. But the fastest growing segment of the gambling industry doesn't have walls. Online casinos and sports betting apps have taken every psychological principle we've discussed and ported them into your pocket. The absence of clocks? Your phone has a clock, but the app is designed to be so engaging that you don't look at it. The sensory manipulation? Push notifications deliver the same dopamine hit as a slot machine's celebratory jingle. The decoupling of money? Digital wallets and one-tap deposits make spending feel frictionless and abstract. The near miss effect? Online slots use the same weighted algorithms as their physical counterparts. The loyalty program? It's now an app with points, tiers, daily bonuses, and streaks that punish you for taking a day off. But online gambling adds something physical casinos never had: data at scale. Every tap, every scroll, every hesitation before placing a bet is tracked and analyzed. Machine learning models identify your personal vulnerabilities, the time of day you're most likely to deposit, the type of loss that triggers a chase, the exact dollar amount of a bonus offer that will bring you back after a cold streak. The casino no longer needs to rely on environmental design to keep you playing. It can reach into your life at any moment and deliver a personalized invitation to gamble. The legalization of sports betting in the United States has accelerated this transformation dramatically. Since the Supreme Court struck down the federal ban in 2018, billions of dollars in advertising have flooded media channels, normalizing gambling as entertainment and embedding it into the culture of watching sports. For a generation growing up with these apps, the line between watching a game and betting on it has effectively disappeared. The gambling industry generates over $500 billion in global revenue annually. It employs millions of people. It funds state budgets through licensing fees and taxes. These are the numbers the industry cites when defending its existence. Here are the numbers it doesn't cite. An estimated 2 to 3% of adults in the United States meet the clinical criteria for problem gambling. That translates to roughly 6 to 9 million people whose relationship with gambling has crossed from recreation into pathology. For these individuals, the consequences are devastating: bankruptcy, divorce, depression, and in the most extreme cases, suicide. Studies consistently find that the suicide rate among problem gamblers is significantly higher than the general population. The industry's standard response to this reality is to promote responsible gambling, a concept that places the burden of control entirely on the individual. Casinos post helpline numbers near the exits. Apps include optional deposit limits that users can override with a few taps. The message is clear: we provide the entertainment, and it's your job to manage your behavior. But this framing ignores the fundamental asymmetry at the heart of the business model. The casino has spent millions engineering an environment specifically designed to compromise your self-control, and then it points to a small sign by the door and says the responsibility is yours. Some jurisdictions have begun to push back. Countries like the United Kingdom and Australia have implemented mandatory loss limits, banned credit card gambling, and restricted advertising during sporting events. But in most of the world, regulation remains minimal, and the industry's lobbying power ensures it stays that way. Here's what makes the casino model worth understanding even if you never gamble. The principles at work in a casino: the environmental manipulation, the exploitation of cognitive bias, the decoupling of action from consequence, the data-driven personalization, are the same principles at work in social media, in mobile gaming, in subscription services, in political campaigns, and in virtually every system designed to capture and hold human attention. The casino was the original attention economy. It figured out decades ago what Silicon Valley rediscovered in the 2010s: that if you design the environment correctly, you don't need to force people to do anything. You just need to make the desired behavior feel natural, comfortable, and rewarding, and make the alternative feel like loss. Every app that uses variable reward schedules, likes, notifications, streaks, is borrowing from slot machine psychology. Every platform that abstracts real money into virtual currency, in-game coins, credits, tokens, is using the same decoupling strategy that chip technology pioneered. Every algorithm that learns your personal triggers and delivers personalized content designed to keep you engaged is running the same playbook as the casino's loyalty analytics team. Understanding how casinos work isn't just about protecting yourself the next time you walk into one. It's about recognizing the architecture of manipulation wherever it appears and making the conscious choice to step outside the design. Because the most dangerous systems aren't the ones that force you to stay. They're the ones that make you forget you ever wanted to leave. If this breakdown shifted how you see these systems, check out our video on how fast food chains engineer addiction through the same psychological playbook. The link is right here on screen.